Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Christmas Specialties Foods on Highland Road across from Rufino's. Welcome to the Monday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I'm Charles Hannegriff along with Jimmy Ott. Jordan Kinch's back in the studio. Troy Macker with us today. Glad that you're with us on a nice, warm, and overcast day here in Baton Rouge. Big weekend, the NCAA basketball tournament, both men's and women's, SEC baseball into week number 2. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Surviving this chalk fest, just trying to squeeze in a Duke pick here and there to kind of stay afloat.
We did the show on Friday, and we were talking about this. It's been a theme about whether Cinderella's dead. And we actually felt okay about it
10-5-1
on Friday
against
morning.
the spread, the Dogs, Thursday.
Oh yeah, we felt pretty good about it.
Yeah,
and in Sienna's performance against Duke shook everybody up. That kept everybody in kind of engrossed in the idea that a big upset could happen. I mean, Sienna came up short.
Yeah, Sienna missed back-to-back dunks on one possession to go up for their biggest lead of the game about 7 minutes into the second half, and to go up 15, and it led out to a dunk for Duke and started 11-0 run. It was kind of like okay, the fatigue is setting in, playing the entire 5 for 40 minutes. But they gave us hope. I mean, that came out of nowhere. I mean, Duke was legitimately in trouble.
Yes.
That wasn't like, you're old saying, never felt like they were going to lose. Oh, no. There was a chance that Sienna could have won that game.
But then we got into Friday, and from Friday through, I know you got the numbers in front of you, favorites. From that point when we got on the air on Friday, it's like, okay, it might be all right. And from that point on, the favorites.
I mean, 10-5-1, and I'm putting the one as Louisville, South Florida. You shop the line, you're going to have a win either way. So we're just going to disregard that one. So 10-5, you take that any day. Any day, that's what the Dogs covered. And so, man, and then you had your Sienna, scare, and you had the high point into that game. I mean, it was okay. All right. No, March Madness it might be okay. And then it was chalk fest. All 16 games on Friday, the favorite won outright. Covered 12 of the 16 games. It carried on to Saturday. The first 4 Dogs, favorites, won the game and covered. You're on a 16-4 run on Friday in the first half of Saturday games, and a 20-0 run on straight up. Friday was the day after the Dogs. It was kind of might have been a little chalky, but Friday was very similar last year. And, I mean, some of these big spreads that aren't even competitive, some of these big spreads that aren't coming down to a bucket at the end. Oh, they fouled it. A lot of these were non-competitive. And so Saturday, the Dogs salvaged 3 of the last 4 covers. So the Dogs went 3-5 on Saturday against the spread, and then yesterday again 2-6. I mean, Miami's covering for most of the game. Could have had a really nice middle. Led at different stretches, led at half, and led at some certain points in the second half early on, and they just Purdue ends with the biggest lead of the game was the final score, and so you had some of these games that that covered. Iowa State. I mean, without their best player, Kentucky they were down 10, I think, to Kentucky, and they still got a 1-point lead at half. It was like, well, they got through the rough part, and then they blow out Kentucky. So, I mean, favorites are 28-19 against the spread,
and it feels like more than that.
Oh, because we have no mid majors left in the Sweet 16. That is the second time it's happened. The only other time, last year.
And we got one double-digit seed who is?
Yeah, very light resource, low expectation, low resource program, Texas.
Yeah, they don't have any money at all.
And last year, your only double-digit seed was in the Sweet 16.
Arkansas.
Was number 10 seeded Arkansas. So they had the highest payroll from a conference that had a record number 14 teams in a tournament. So your highest payroll of your 14-team conference that made it to the NCAA tournament, I mean, that is not Cinderella. I mean, not even close. 4 double-digit seeds lasted through the first round. Okay, High Point, Texas A&M, and help me out. The other one, they got blasted. But High Point and the other one were actually, they're mid-majors. But that's St. Louis. A10 team. And
VCU got to the second round against North Carolina.
VCU.
VCU was.
They were not a. They were
an 11.
Oh, I'm sorry. St. Louis was not a. They were 9.
Yeah.
They were 9. Okay,
yeah.
it was VCU, not St. Louis. A10 team.
Yeah.
So, that's not. That's Cinderella's not dead, but severely wounded. I mean, what do you want to say? I mean, Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals. I mean, give me a Michael Jordan with the Wizards. I mean, it was not without excitement, drama. I mean, you did have a story. Nebraska is your storyline. Is one of your storylines because they've always been a major conference entry, but the last major conference team to ever win a game, and they win 2, and they survive a buzzer beater on the end. They don't they don't call timeout.
Yeah.
He elects to. He reads it, and he lets him play out, and man, they get a layup out of it. Not allowing the Vanderbilt defense to set up. So there's different philosophies. He trusted his guard in his hand. How about the kid from Iowa, their best player, who's been with the coach every step of the way? He dishes it to the kid who had scored a bucket, and not only dishes, he's telling him, shoot. He's doing this, like, go ahead and shoot it. He does pull it to beat Florida in the biggest. But that's your Cinderella? I mean, yes, because you beat a number 1 seed. We're not going to have a repeat of 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. But Iowa's been a damn good program for a long time.
Yeah, there's no of the St. Peters and teams like that. High Point played well.
High Point was your best mid-major.
Yeah.
I mean, they performed with, and it took a guy that he's doing some things historically. Over the regular season, first since Pete Maravich to lead the conference in assists and points. Now he has the most points ever through 2 games for a freshman in the tournament. And I mean, even Calipari said after, we just gave it to him, said, man, carry us down the stretch. It took an unreal performance to keep High Point from winning because they brought it. They played at a high level.
So the other side of this is the blue bloods that are spending money that are not where they want to be. And let me start with Kentucky. Kentucky needs a miracle on Friday.
Yeah, they had no business beating Santa Clara.
If Martelli gets his timeout, they don't even get their shot off.
That's right.
Okay, they need that. And then they suffer the worst loss in the NCAA tournament since 1972 for Kentucky. And
for them.
For them, yeah. The post game with
how long?
72.
Okay,
72. Their post game with Mark Pope had a lot of questions about the $20 million budget, $20 to $22 million, whatever they spent, and this is not the return on investment that they wanted.
They got one NBA player, Oweh.
And one of the guys that is an NBA prospect missed most of the season. Then the story shifts to, well, why didn't they go get Yaxel Lindebrog, the All-American from Michigan? And the story surfaces that they've got an offer out there between $7 and $9 million for him that he turned down.
$7 to
$9 million for this one. Now, he All-American year, great player. If Kentucky doesn't get what they want from a $20 million budget, Kentucky will go out and spend $30. They have to. They cannot afford to not have their basketball program prominent. And it's been 10 years, better than 10 years now, since they've made the Final Four. So if 20 wasn't enough, tell me if this doesn't sound like LSU football. 18 wasn't enough. We'll spend 40.
It's the exact same.
Yeah, because this program has
because
to win.
we thought like, man, they're spending money last year.
Yes.
Huh?
And Kentucky was spending money.
Yeah.
And guess what? That roster was built not to lose in the second round of the NCAA tournament and should have lost in the first round. LSU's roster last year was not built to go to the Texas Bowl. It was built to go to the playoffs, and they didn't get there.
No.
Okay. If Pope was in year 3, I think he would. I think he would be out. I think he's going to get one more year out of this, but that's it. 2 other programs that underachieved: Hubert Davis and North Carolina. He will probably be out by the end of the day today or tomorrow. And then Kansas, who loses in the second round. Now, that roster was plenty good enough to win. We know the problems with Peterson. But Bill Self looked like a guy yesterday that had coached his last game at least for a while. His health problems are real. And they went through a list
really?
of these. The last 3 years, he's had to miss games at some point because he's had stents put in. And he sounded like a guy when they said, you're going to coach at Kansas next year. And he's kind of like, I'm not addressing that right now. Not, hell yes, I'm going to be back and we're going to be better than ever. It was that's 3 blue blood programs that, hey, we didn't spend enough last time. How much do we have to spend?
We knew what he was saying publicly, but we knew 100% that he was not enjoying that whole Peterson saga this year. When we that was a given. No matter what he said, he tried to protect the player and he tried to kind of downplay it because he's not going to throw gasoline on the fire publicly. But no, he hated it. He was eating him alive.
And so you get that, and then sometimes you'll have coaches say, "Oh, well, I want to spend more time with my family." It's just an excuse they want to. Self has legitimate health problems. And he just sounded like a guy. Maybe he'll change his mind after a couple of weeks. He'll feel better, get some time off, whatever. But he sounded like a guy who was going to get out in his best interest because, man, this is really affecting my health.
I think he's got enough that he's earned that he can live comfortably in retirement.
He can. And
if he wants to go take a back seat and do some studio work.
If he can go do TV, he can take a year off. He can take 2 years off and come back like Patino did. It's up to him, but he didn't sound like a guy who was coming back. No.
I mean,
not even close.
Well, man, you're conditioned to have it, so long. I mean, we can call them, they just, they're fossils. But you're only a product of your experiences in your environment. And, man, these guys, it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
And I'm sorry, but I read it, and I'm thinking we're sitting here wrestling with whether LSU can buy out a coach who's got the worst 4-year record in school history over $7, $8, $10 million, whatever. And these programs are talking about that like that's one more player. And I was just like, whoa.
And places like Creighton, that's a lot for them to get to $6 million for their payroll.
And Coach McDermott retired this morning officially. Yeah. We knew that was coming, but he made it official this morning.
And who's taking where that guy come from?
His lead assistant came. Where did he come from before he was at Creighton?
The team he left, the program he left in pretty good standings. High Point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were in pretty good shape. So it's just it's levels, again, LSU football. Hey, $18 million and a $10 million coach wasn't enough. We'll go double that player spending and then some, and we'll get a coach for 13 because we're going to win or we're going to go broke trying. And that's what Kentucky feels like, and I'm sure North Carolina and Kansas are right behind them when it comes to that. I don't know if the Big East can rebound with something like that, but North Carolina, Kansas, and Kentucky have to win in basketball. They have to.
Yes.
That was kind of my takeaway. If you want to compete with the real blue bloods, and look, LSU's got to get the football program right. The basketball program, when I see stuff like that, it's like, whoa, man, you talk about another planet.
Well,
right now.
That's why. Look, we can, Will Wade has been to 4 different schools and been to the tournament 8 out of 9 years. The most they've won is 2 games, though. The year was suspended, and they were not competitive in the Sweet 16 in D.C. against Michigan State. So, his track record is he's gotten you to a point, but you're always in the mix. But have never really been a serious threat to make a deep run in a tournament. They'll take that here. I mean, a program like Purdue had not gotten to a Final Four since, 1980, or was it 79? I think, no, 80. No, 81 when Louisville beat UCLA.
No, yeah, I think you had it right the first time.
81.
80.
81. No, 81. No.
80. Joe Barry Carroll.
I'm sorry, 80.
Yeah.
The year that Louisville beat UCLA.
Yeah, Dr. Duncan
LSU
Stein.
lost in the regional final to them.
Barrel Griffin.
And Joe Barry Carroll. They lost to UCLA in the Final Four. Iowa was the other one. So we talk about Iowa again. That they went till just recently when Edey leads them to the Final Four. That's how long it's been for a program like that. So it's not a given to be a really strong program. And Purdue is a top 10 program over that span where they didn't go to the Final Four.
And a couple of very good
like
coaches.
Right now, Painter's got the longest streak going, being a top 4 protected seed. And they didn't go. So it's almost to a point where they could not have made any more administrative placements to make Will Wade jump after just 1 year at NC State. I mean, he's a lot more comfortable with LSU's administration and maybe making his move than maybe a year ago or certainly 2 years ago. So, and it's the best budget move, too. The built-in support, the automatic, you can't hire, if you hire Bobby Knight in his prime, it's not going to generate the excitement level of bringing back Will Wade because it's so dead. So there's a lot of layers. Yeah, LSU almost can't afford the basketball program, and it's in rough shape. It's at an all-time low as far as interest level. Agreed?
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like they're in a desperate spot right now to bring in a guy like Will Wade. We'll see if he makes a move. There's a lot of confidence level floating around. It's grilling season, Charlie.
I noticed it warmed up.
Man, it is. Man, get that green egg from Thibodeau store, man. Get it ready to go. So you can do the tenderloins over here. You can do choice ribeyes. So the steaks. You got the seasoned steaks or the regular steaks?
The regular steaks.
Okay, so you can do them regular or the Cajun season that we have over here. Another thing, too, ground ribeye meat to make for burgers. You talk about a tasty burger. A great selection of sausages, pork and jalapeno cheddar, the smoked brisket sausage, boudin to put on. Just some of the many different sausages that we have, all made in-house. Our stuffed pork chops with pepper jack. How about the pepper jack stuffed pork tenderloin, bacon wrapped, jalapeno cream cheese stuffed duck breasts that are bacon wrapped. The chicken thighs also do the jalapeno cream cheese stuffed chicken thighs as well. We got chicken breasts as well. Spinach stuffed chicken breasts, cornbread stuffing stuffed chicken breasts, the broccoli stuffed chicken breasts. We even got the seasoned wings. They're just ready to throw on your grill. Straight from what you get buy them over here at Chris's Specialty Foods. So, I mean, grilling season, you just go down, steaks, pork, chicken, beef, wild game, seafood, you name it, man, all the different sides as well if you want to, like the jalapeno poppers and things like that. All right, chef special today, a suggestion for our lunch special today. Of course, lunch is served here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Smoked pork Philly-style wrap, served with our homemade chips. So we do a different lunch special each and every day here at Chris's Specialty Foods, Highland Road, right across from Rufino's.
Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And we return here at Chris's. Come on by and see us here for lunch right across from Rufino's. All right, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you about two SEC teams. And I would think that when the NBA draft comes along in June, that the top two players out of the SEC to be drafted are going to be Darius Acuff and Nate Ament. Acuff averaged 30 points a game in the two games. He had 36 yesterday when they beat High Point. Saturday, excuse me. Arkansas, to get to this round of 16, beat Hawaii and High Point, a 13 and a 12 seed. But Acuff could hardly have been any better, to the point now where there seems to be more momentum that he will be a top 3 pick and is at least getting some consideration for the number 1 pick.
Yes.
A lot of consideration. Ament, who we like an awful lot, somehow managed to go scoreless in the first game. Blew my mind. 0 points for a guy like that. Now, he had 16 against Virginia, but he's only 4 of 11 from the floor. He got to the line a lot. However, Tennessee it got a little hairy at the end. Virginia got a 1-point lead with under 2 minutes to go, but Tennessee led for a great portion of that game.
Pretty much the whole game.
And Jacoby Gillespie was the guy that carried them yesterday.
9
especially
assists, too.
In the late going, he was fantastic.
He's a shot maker, man.
Yeah. So Tennessee's got Iowa State. Arkansas's got Arizona in the next round. But it's 2 teams that each won a couple of games and each got a superstar.
Tennessee is linked right there with Houston, because you talk to any of the Tennessee players under Barnes, you're going to play defense for Coach Barnes. Well, you know about Kelvin Sampson as well. And I thought both teams had more firepower offensively, but both were not as good defensively. Now, Houston was near the top as far as top of the country, but not as suffocating as they've been. Also, partly is that due because Sampson never plays freshmen. Well, he's starting 2 freshmen, in Senaka and Flemings. In Tennessee is still pretty good defensively compared to the rest of the SEC, but not giving up way more points than they used to. I mean, Houston gave up 55.5 at Texas Tech this year. That is they never come close to that type of stuff. But they've also scored 20 points and a half, only 20 in a semifinal game, a Final Four game against Baylor a few years ago. But I saw both of these teams, Charlotte. I saw 4 teams that played. They're playing defense. 4 teams, and all kind of with different read. Well, first of all, Tennessee and Houston, they're just going back to their roots a little bit. And like Emmett was really playing defense. They held teams to way below their scoring average. And Houston, they had one possession where they got like 7 offensive rebounds against Texas A&M on Saturday. The other 2 is for different. Iowa State, their only first-team All-Big 12 player, looks like he's going to be out for a while. He's on a boot in a scooter yesterday. Yeah. And man, Charlie, when they were struggling offensively yesterday, they were really committed to playing on the defensive end.
Kentucky turned it over 20 times. 20 turnovers.
And Iowa State had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really suffocating them defensively. The other one is a team that was probably the least interested in playing defense all year.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Alabama?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's come some of their beat writers have said. They said light years improved defensively without their second leading scorer in Holloway. So Tennessee, man, they look like Tennessee and Houston was the one value that I saw outside the number ones to win it all, because they're going to play in the Toyota Center in downtown the next 2 games, and that's an advantage. And Tennessee is where I really didn't think they had. This is not their year. No, man, they keep playing defense like that, and they're not so reliant on Ament. Acuff, they got to have him. Acuff, so
he's just he's a monster, an absolute monster, and the comparisons to Jalen Brunson with the Knicks, I see it.
I think he's more explosive than Brunson. I think he's more of a Derrick Rose. He loves to attack the rim. That has a better shot, sort of like an Iverson. So he's quick like Iverson. He finishes like Rose. Brunson likes to put you on his hip, kind of. They posted him up a lot when he was at Villanova.
Yeah.
If you remember, and sort of likes to do that mid-range stuff there. Acuff finishes. He finishes. And I just, what I like about him too, Charlie? How many times he pulls off these remarkable highlight plays constantly. He's always about the next play. Always about the next possession. He is, you don't know if he's 1 for 10 shooting or 9 for 10. He is temperament, he's next play, and he acts like he's been there before. He has got the whole package.
And he acts like he wants to be there.
He played 45 minutes.
Never is he a little bit off or a little bit hurt? No, he's playing from wire to wire every single game. his attitude, his competitiveness, it reminds me of some of the real competitors. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but I like his game an awful lot. Houston, how can you not? Houston has the not only do they have the Toyota Center, but now the number 1 seed has been eliminated from that region.
Right.
So now they don't have to deal with Florida
right.
in the second weekend. And Houston and Illinois, I think, is going to be a fantastic basketball game. I'm looking forward to that.
Look for the whistle there.
Yes.
See how it's called.
How they going to
because Illinois does not foul. They're not physical. They're very Euro in their roster, and they're just very finesse. They score the ball, but they don't want to play bully ball. Houston wants to bully you. And I just saw them. Their intensity was like old Houston in both of the games. I mean, they were really, really committed on defensive and rebounding again.
And I love Nebraska's story. I love Hoiberg. And the game against Vanderbilt, it's one of the 2 or 3 best games of the tournament. You can make an argument the best game of the tournament.
Great.
But if they get into a regional final with Houston, who's been there so many times and they haven't, and that game's in Houston, I'm sorry, the Cougars are just a really, really strong try. I'm not saying it's going to be a double-digit spread or anything, but they're a really strong. All of the intangibles would favor them if they get to that game.
Yeah, I'll talk about these are all mini 4-team tournaments at these different sites. And the Houston, the Toyota Center 4-team tournament looks like it's going to be decided in the first game.
Yeah.
On Thursday night. So, between Houston and Illinois. Illinois, man, they're just I don't know. They just can score, and they got a lot of different options too. Stojakovic had the big game, in their second game over the weekend. And sometimes he's like the 4th leading scorer, so they could get a big game from a lot of different areas, which makes them so good. Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title, Chad Reynolds at Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060, full service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional service is what you get when you call 296-0060. Buying, building, refinancing, nobody chooses but you. Choose our friend Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title, 296-0060.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road. Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. 3 best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
Troy, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. A little bit tired, but what a weekend, man! It was. It had a little bit of everything. Maybe not the huge upset, but other than that, it had everything we could ask for, right?
It still delivers. It's going to be hard for you not to get some drama, even though we didn't have the amount of upsets. And look, this is kind of not a complete surprise. It was our narrative before. Is Cinderella how damaged is she? So this is the second year in a row for the first time ever, only 2 times ever. There's no mid-majors in the Sweet 16. But I'm more interested in, the chalk. I mean, the underdogs went 10-5 and 10-5. The one, depending on where you shopped, you got to win on Louisville, South Florida. So 10-5 were the dogs. You could have been increased to 11-5 if you want. But then on Friday, 4-12, 0-16 straight up, and then it carried into the first 4 on Saturday. 20 straight favorites winning straight up and also covering 16-4. Now Saturday they finished the dogs finished 3-5, and then there was another chalk day yesterday, 6-2 the chalk ATS. Total underdogs 19-28. This is almost a repeat of last year. So on Thursday, a disaster on Friday, and the chalk continued to have a profitable weekend as well. Did the betting public, the numbers I was monitoring, they shifted, just like last year, to betting the favorites. First rounds, the house had a nice day. Saturday and Sunday, they gave a lot of it back. Is that what happened at Bet Rivers as well?
Not really.
Okay.
A little bit. The book came out ahead on the weekend total and on Saturday and Sunday. but like you mentioned, it was very very favorite heavy on Saturday and Sunday. And if this were just like regular season games, these would be mostly wins for the public because the public bets on the favorite. But it all shifts when we get to March Madness. People want the underdog, even if it is, 11 seed Texas. I guess they're the bad example because they actually did cover. But when your underdogs are still power conference teams, people are betting the dog. We took a ton of money on the under as well. So, like, all the things we know about betting shift the other direction in March Madness. And the interesting thing for me is there was a ton of talk. A lot of those games were close with 7 to 10 minutes to play. And especially on Saturday, it felt like when the 8-minute mark happened, the favorite, who was up 5 or 6 points, just put their foot on the gas and ran away with it. And there were some games where, it was 18, 19-point result, and I was like, this game was 6, 7 points just a few minutes ago. And so that's really the last 5 to 10 minutes of the game is really what made it chalk heavy, because there were a lot of games that were still, you figured you knew who was going to win, but it was close, and then the better teams just ran away with it.
No, right. Duke with 13 and change to go, laying double digits.
Right.
I mean, they don't. I mean, they cruise to an easy cover. I mean, yesterday, the final score in Purdue and Miami, that was the biggest lead they had all game. I mean, so some of these dogs were in position and just couldn't. Charlie likes to use a line I think that applied to this past weekend to a lot of those games. Is the game was too long for them. I mean, Now, we know about when Sienna's going to play all 5 starters 40 minutes. Well, the game is going to get too long for them. That's very predictable. But it was like that a lot of the games. That's right. You're in position as a dog, and it just couldn't finish it off to end it. So, what was your favorite moments of the weekend? Because it always delivers.
I think it has to be the entire Nebraska-Vanderbilt game. That's one of the finest first weekend games I've ever seen. Now, big credit to the Nebraska crowd. That was incredible. The shot making in that game was just unreal. Kevin Tanner played amazing for Vanderbilt. Duke Miles played amazing. I'm back on the Nebraska bandwagon. Was there for most of the time. Got a little shaky. Thought maybe I'd take a step off. Stayed on it. It was just such a remarkable game. It, had essentially a game winner, and then you have a buzzer beater at the other end that is now the second most famous missed buzzer beater of all time, behind Gordon Hayward in the national championship game, Butler versus Duke. It was a sensational basketball game. It's up there with Kentucky versus Wichita State, when Wichita State had to play 9-seed Kentucky as an undefeated seed in 2015, 2014, which was a tremendous basketball game. That was the best basketball game I saw this weekend, by far, Vanderbilt, Nebraska.
Yeah, it was. It's funny. My favorite was the one that was going to head up against it. That was Arkansas and High Point.
Yeah,
it was. High Point just, and look, their best player gets 2 fouls, and he's pretty much out for the. And that's like in the first 4 minutes of the game, and they were still. The one where the 3-pointer where it bounced off the iron and went straight up in the air, kind of like the Pacers Knicks playoff game,
yeah.
And then it hit the rim 5 more times before it dropped in. How did it actually go in? And if you were in Oklahoma City and you enjoy drinking a Busch Light, well, you weren't finding any, because Nebraska contingency drank all of that as much as they could find. Chris Webber, who's doing the game, said, "Man, these guys are at the pool at 6 a.m. drinking, getting ready for the game." It's a hungry fan base. And Charlie, you tell Troy, where do we stay when we go to Omaha? In Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa-Nebraska has been a long-time rivalry. They play usually on that Friday on Black Friday. And so now they get to play in a Sweet 16 game. But they're all – the players making the rounds after it and stuff like that. And then the shot. And the thing about it is you're inbounding kind of on the sideline. Mm-hmm. And so you got to advance the ball – with the clock stopped. You got to make a deeper pass than which tells me they were content with that kid shooting a half-court shot. It looked designed, and he looked comfortable. He almost hit one after a steal against Tennessee. when they lost at home. But inflated balls, some people making a case. Does that drop if they are not playing with inflated balls or not? Did you see the still shot, Charlie? How deep it was?
No, I didn't see the still shot, but I saw that story about the inflated balls on Thursday before we even started. So,
and you watch the games, you can't tell.
I can't.
No, I couldn't either. They did that a few years ago, and there was massive unders.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give it a chance, but I would have put it a small percentage, like 20% or something like that. Max, we were eating crawfish yesterday. Max wants to go 65%. But, I mean, what do you think, Troy?
Yeah, I've heard all the stuff about the inflated balls. Just when you're on a half-court shot that doesn't have a high trajectory, and that one didn't, like think Paul Jesperson's shot for Northern Iowa against Texas, that was a floater. This one was a little bit more of a line drive, and, you're running, he's trying to break a little bit of a press. So I don't know about that. The inflated ball didn't seem to harm Otega Owe, but he banked that in against Santa Clara. Just crazy. I mean, when it left his hands, I thought it was good, and it damn near was.
It was unbelievable. Are we seeing any early action on the games on Thursday and Friday night?
Yeah, a little bit. Surprisingly, not surprisingly. The most wagered on game right now is Iowa and Nebraska, and we're taking some pretty heavy money on Iowa to win outright, which is a little surprising. It's a tight line. Iowa's plus 108. Nebraska's minus 137. Nebraska's 1.5 point favorite. But Iowa money line has been very popular from a money standpoint, and it doesn't really come as a surprise because Iowa is a big state for us, and they are very passionate about their teams when they're in big games. The Cy-Hawk Trophy is one of our most wagered on games of the earlier season. Like in advance, we have that game up for a long time, and it gets more money and tickets on it than whatever that marquee Labor Day weekend game is, whether it was Michigan, Alabama, or whatnot. So we're seeing a lot of money on Iowa there. And the game that hasn't gotten as much action, but I'm just so excited for, is Illinois-Houston. Certainly think St. John's Duke is going to be awesome. But Illinois-Houston is going to be a great basketball game. And Illinois is only 3.5-point dogs. I think they could beat Houston if they're hitting their shot. There's some really interesting lines. Arizona minus 8.5 against Arkansas. Arizona's awesome. I love them. I think they're the best team in the country. I have them winning the national championship, but Arkansas is really good and they play really fast and they're not super deep. But 8.5 for this Arkansas team, yikes.
And the other one, how high do you think the total in the Alabama-Michigan game might get? That was one of the ones I wanted to see this morning. It's at 174.5, and Troy, I'm not sure that's not low. Yeah, I'm not sure that's not low. Because Alabama's only chance is they can't change styles now. They have to run with them, and Michigan's going to run. I mean,
Michigan has averaged 98 points in their two. Is it 96 points in their two games? Alabama scored 90 both times.
Yeah, so
Michigan is outscoring Alabama through the first two games of the tournament.
And Alabama has to run with them to have any chance. I mean, this game's going to end up 99-89
because of Michigan's size. So yeah, they're going to. But Michigan's going to run right with them.
Absolutely.
Alabama's number one scoring team in the country. Michigan's number 9 out of 365 teams. So yeah, there'll be some. They'll be willing participants.
I thought it might be 180.
Oh no,
when I first thought about it.
Any thoughts on a future at a price? Maybe you looking at Troy to win it all.
Well, I'm not liking my Duke future just because I mean the fact that Duke was able to rip off the second half they were able to, and win by so big.
Right.
But I worry about their depth. I worry about their slow start. They're not a high-scoring team. Hopefully they get their guard back from injury. Obviously, Ngungba played. But even before the injuries, they didn't have a lot of depth. I think, honestly, a Nebraska to the Final Four future, I believe, is 12-1 or so. I don't hate that. Same with Arkansas. Certainly Arizona is a tall task, but Arkansas has been playing really, really well. A-Cup is potentially playing his way into the top 3 or right now I'd probably have them as the fourth pick. So those are the two Final Four futures. I don't know if I'd make a play on a national championship future because I just think one of Michigan or Arizona is going to win it. But Nebraska to make the Final Four. This is a team we thought could do it. Kind of hit a wall, but had some injuries, had some sickness. But they seem back. They have a playmaker in Brady Spranger. They have a shooter in Stanford. They have a big man in Rick Bass who can also shoot. They got the coach's son running the point. I really like this team. That would probably be mine, is Nebraska to make the Final Four.
One of the last teams to be undefeated went to Champaign and beat Illinois, went to Michigan shorthanded and almost beat them, and then they kind of tailed off at the end in the regular season and lost handily to Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macker.
That's play another Big Ten team. If Illinois beats Houston, they get Iowa and Illinois. That's great for playing a second game in a weekend. You have a lot of muscle memory from that.
Big Ten's got 6 of the 16. They're the leading conference by far, entering into this Sweet 16. Thank you, Troy. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Thanks, guys.
All right, don't forget South Louisiana, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies. Lucas Ragoose and a great team over at Total Maintenance. Since 1980, they've been doing it. AC, heating, generator installations, maintenance, you name it, they do it all. Just give them a call at 480-1000, 480-1000. And if you're having some issues with those AC units, now that we are using them, same-day service. Again, service today every day. You call today, you get service today. Nobody will never sleep hot. Factory-authorized dealers for Carrier, American Standard, Dakin and Rheem products. Again, generators, authorized dealers for Generac and Cummings. Again, Total Maintenance, 480-1000, 480-1000.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at Lunch 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Well, it was a pretty easy weekend for the LSU women's basketball team. I would say they won by 58 on Friday night and came back on Sunday and won by 54. A lot of emotion in the building yesterday with the last home game for Flau'jae Johnson. She was pulled with just under 8 minutes to go in the game and I think the lead was almost 50 at that point. She had 24 points in her final LSU home game. Tigers will move on to the round of 16 for the fourth consecutive year under Kim Mulkey, and they will play Duke on Friday. Still don't have a game time yet, but they are in Sacramento. And LSU, who beat Duke in Durham back in the first week in December by 16, is an 8.5-point favorite to win this game and advance to the Elite Eight. Duke's 2 wins over the weekend. They beat Charleston 81-64, and then they beat Baylor 69-46. So they had 2 easy wins as well. So it'll be a rematch of that game from early December for the LSU ladies as they try to get into the Elite Eight, where they would, you would think, look at UCLA, who is the number 1 seed in that bracket. So Kim Mulkey and crew move on. 2 of the easiest victories you'll see in the NCAA tournament, over 100 both times for the Tigers. Live at Lunch from Chris's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
Here at Chris's Live at Lunch at Crawfish on Friday night. So you can get in here, get your ball crawfish on Fridays.
They start it's at 5 o'clock on Fridays. So, man, the crawfish are beautiful right now. So, we've been doing this over at Chris's Specialty Foods the last few years. And so, yeah, we wait until we get into the harder crawfish season. We've been doing it a few weeks now. But Friday night's boiled crawfish over here starting at 5 p.m. at Chris's Specialty Foods. Let me read off the week of chef suggestions for our lunch specials. Today is the smoked pork Philly style wrap. Tomorrow is Chris's fried chicken and waffles, topped with the Steen's cane syrup. Wednesday will be the barbecue platter with smoked brisket, smoked wings, brisket sausage, and crawfish boiled potato salad, baked beans. How about that? That sounds delicious on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thursday's a hearty beef stew served with steamed rice and corn McShoe. And then Friday, lobster fado dough. Choose your style. New England-style roll, served cold. The herbed butter roll, served hot. Or the lobster grilled cheese. So the lobster fado dough on Friday. That's in addition to our regular menu that we have 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. with different plate lunches, sandwiches, burgers, and po' boys and all that good stuff.
LSU drops 2 or 3 over the weekend to Oklahoma. When we got in on Friday, now we were lost in a whole lot of the basketball stuff, so we didn't talk a lot about this on Friday. But LSU won the opener on Thursday night. It was by far the best outcome of the weekend, though it was a little bit misleading. LSU won the game 7-1, and by far the best thing that happened this whole weekend is that Kason Evans pitched the way he did. He had 15 strikeouts and 1 walk. He got deeper into the game, got them into the 8th inning, did not give up an earned run, and only gave up 3 hits. That's the Kason Evans that we saw most of last year, and that we felt like he could move in as a starting pitcher and be an ace. The results had been mixed so far, but the stuff is always there, and the mentality is always there with Kason Evans. And you really saw it on Thursday night where he was just dominant. And 110 pitches, he stretched out, longest outing and the best outing of his career. And Oklahoma came into this series ranked 8th. Also in that game when they got into the 8th inning and they needed somebody to come in and get an out. Zach Cowan, Ethan Plug came in and gave up a hit, so they pulled him for Cowan. Cowan's second straight good outing. He had a very rough outing, a very rough start to the season, first 3 or 4. But the last 2, he was good at Vanderbilt when they needed him early, and he was good against Oklahoma when they needed him late. He came in, he got the 4 outs on just 11 pitches to finish the game, and LSU won it 7-1. Granted, it was not tight quarters, but it was to finish the game, so that was good for Cowan. So you get 7 runs, and the way LSU's offense has been going, saying, okay, well, 7 runs against a Friday night guy in the SEC, we'll take that. But it's misleading. Cam Johnson started for Oklahoma, and LSU fans remember him from 2 years ago. He is a hard-throwing left-hander that struggles with his control. And he started out this season. He transferred to Oklahoma last year. He started out this season pretty good. The last couple of starts, once he's gotten into league play, have been rocky. And frankly, LSU scoring the 5 runs in the first 2 innings was a lot. Oklahoma aided. Johnson walked 6 before he left in the second. Oklahoma made 3 errors, and they probably could have given them a 4th. So LSU's got 3 runs on the board before they have a hit. Listen, you'll take them any way you can get them, especially in the league. But LSU's offense did not exactly wake up, and this became more concerning over the weekend because you say, well, they scored double digits 2 games against Vandy last week on the road. But Vandy had one of their starting pitchers out, a couple of their relievers out, and the wind was galing out to center field. The hitting conditions were prime. Hitting conditions were pretty good at the box this weekend. It was warm. The wind was blowing out. But LSU didn't hit a whole bunch. And after they got those 5 runs in the first 2 innings, which, again, were aided by 6 walks and 3 errors, they only scored 2 the rest of the way against 4 Oklahoma pitchers. So they got the win, and that was good. Evans was great. Cowan was good and reassuring, and they're going to need him. And LSU got out of there with a 7-1 win. Didn't start to hit the ball the way 7 runs might suggest, though. But you're 2-2, and you're going to Friday, and you're like, okay, you got 2 shots to get this series. If you get this series, you're 3-3. Nobody's exactly jumped out to a big lead here. I'll get to that in a minute. And LSU came out. They got an early 1-0 lead. And then probably the worst thing that happened all weekend, Cooper Moore, who started the game, tightened up in the middle innings. He would have to leave the game after 4. Jay Johnson would later say on Saturday that the tricep tightness is going to cost Cooper Moore about 3 weeks. So they got to reconfigure their rotation. But again, the offense just doesn't come out there. You get 7 hits and 2 runs in the game against Oklahoma against their number 2 pitcher. Merculis, unlike Johnson, did not help. He only walked 2, and the bullpen only walked 2, and Oklahoma did not commit an error. Without the benefit of the walks and the errors, LSU's offense was pretty toothless. The top of the lineup only had 2 hits. That's Milam, Brown, and Curio. Oklahoma spent the weekend pitching around Jake Brown, which is what I would do. They walked him 6 times over the weekend, and LSU never got a hit behind any of those walks. So he scored 3 runs, but they never got a hit behind any of those walks. They didn't point down to first base, but we know what an intentional walk looks like, even when you don't stick the glove out or just point down to first base. So not a lot of offense. After Moore left, the bullpen was okay. I thought Grant Fontenot and Santiago Garcia put another good performance in after the ones that they had the last time. But Oklahoma only needed 4 runs to win this game. You had a chance in the 7th. You had 2 on, and you had Curiel up, and he makes an out. What are you going to do? That's as good as you can hope for. Was LSU 1 play away? Maybe. But they were 1 play away in the Friday night game against Vandy, too. The margin of error is just going to be really, really small. And that was exemplified on Saturday. LSU sent William Schmidt out. Schmidt didn't pitch bad. He only gave up 1 run in 4 innings, but Oklahoma worked a lot of pitch counts. They got his pitch count up to 90, and they got him out in the 5th inning. LSU got an early 2-run homer from Omar Cerna, who Johnson says is now going to be a fixture in the lineup, wherever that is, behind the plate at first base. Zach York struck out 4 times on Friday night. He had more problems defensively, so Cerna started at first base on Saturday. Actually handled a couple of chances pretty well, and he hit one out of the park. He's one of the few guys that is hitting. I would look for more of that, but Cerna's going to be in the lineup no matter what. They went to Gavin Guidry, one of his longer outings of the year. Maybe they stayed a little bit too long with him. He got up to 70 pitches. Mike could have gone to Sheeran a little bit earlier yesterday, but LSU had the lead into the 8th. They get a double play ball. It's going to get them out of it. It's going to get them to the 9th with the lead, and they booed it. Jack Ruckert, who was a local standout, defensive ace at Catholic High and was thought to be a defensive replacement in the late innings, was going to be his role this year. That's 3 errors now, and this one was tailor-made. So they got to rethink that a little bit and have Ruckert maybe rebuild his confidence a little bit, because he has not been the defensive ace that they want. And that's one of the problems with this team. Again, only 4 hits on Saturday. You've got defensive problems. You've got catching problems behind the plate, 4 more wild pitches. They're at a whopping 34 wild pitches for the season in 25 games. And I'm sorry, but this ain't all on the pitchers. A lot of these balls, you gotta get yourself in front of them. You got to do a better job there. But between the wild pitches and the hit batters, it's free bases that are besides the walk. Last week, the walks were the big problem. They walked 26 in 26 innings. You ain't going to beat anybody doing that. This weekend, they only walked 12 in 27 innings, and 8 of those were on Saturday in the final game. So they got the walk totals down, but they're still giving away way too many free bases. So right this second, you got a lot of question marks. You don't have anybody that is really tearing it up offensively. The top of your lineup is – they've got to produce like stars, because the bottom of the lineup is not giving you a whole bunch. You've got defensive issues, and now that you've got to replace Cooper Moore in the rotation, your bullpen is going to take a hit. My guess is that they will move William Schmidt into the Saturday role. He pitched in Saturday, was game 3 this week. He'll go Saturday next week. Evans stays locked in as your number 1. What do you do on Sunday? Well, my guess is that if they need Zach Cowan to close out a game on Thursday or on Friday or Saturday, they'll use him. And if not, he'll start on Sunday. Same thing for Gavin Guidry. He may end up getting a start there. If they got to use Guidry and Cowan before they get to Sunday, I'm honestly not sure who would be your next guy in line. That's a little bit tougher to answer, but you're going to use those main guys in the Friday and Saturday games if you have a chance to win them. LSU's done this a lot of years. Okay, there's been way more years where they went into Sunday with let's see who we got left than 3 rock solid starters. I mean that doesn't happen in very many of the years, but they've definitely got some issues right now. Here's the thing though, if you want to take a positive look at this thing. Through 2 weeks of the SEC season, not only is nobody undefeated in the league, nobody's 5-1. It's been 6 years since that happened. You don't have Missouri's not as bad as they were last year. South Carolina made a coaching change over the weekend. Paul Mainieri was fired. They played with a lot more life in the last 2 games of the season. So I don't think you're going to have a team that goes 3-27 again, like Missouri did, and you're not going to have a team that goes 6-24 like South Carolina did. And I don't think you're going to have anybody win more than 22 games. So the middle is crowded, Jimmy. There's not a dominant team. There's a lot of good teams, but there's not a dominant team.
I think
now.
You got one. Texas 2 series against 2 top 5 teams.
Fair enough.
Mississippi State and Auburn.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's they're the highest ranked team right now, number 2 in the SEC. That's the new rankings.
Yeah.
And they played. They started off pretty doggone heavy. Charlie, you talked about here's some numbers that just are odd, and part of it, and obviously the fielding it's hurt, and they are 14 out of 16 teams in the SEC in fielding percentage. Who gets the most balls hit to him?
Shortstop.
He's fouled. He's 1,000. He doesn't have an error.
I thought he had 1.
He's got 0.
He's got 0. I thought he had 1.
62 assists, 18 putouts, 80 chances, 1,000.
Right. Yeah, no errors. That's right.
That's unusual.
Yes.
When you're 14 to 16 and you thought that was the 8th inning ball that was a Saturday game, right?
Yeah.
To second base.
Yeah.
You thought that was tailor-made double play?
I thought it was a very makeable play for a defensive replacement. Yes.
Oh no, it's a routine play. I don't know if it's a routine double play. Because he bobbled it and then he was late to the throw.
Yeah.
Is that the one where they called him out on the field, but they reviewed it and they reversed it?
If he feels that cleanly, I think they're going to. He's flipping the mile.
Okay,
I think they're going to turn two.
I mean,
yeah, yes, I think they're going to turn 2.
Okay.
If he feels it clean.
I wasn't because he bobbled it, and the only thing is he was thrown off completely because he didn't rush it to second either.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and that's when he slid in and they reversed the call. It was very close, but I thought even he could have got the 1 out, the 4-3 put out.
Yeah.
It's not an error. You can't anticipate a double play.
Right.
But if he gets it, that's not an error. Well, then it's an error, and it could have been. I thought the physical error, but I thought he could have showed a little bit more urgency in hurrying the ball over to first as well.
Yeah.
That's just
that would have helped. They ended up losing the game by 1 run. You want to look at this in a positive standpoint. You're one strike away from winning the Friday night game at Vanderbilt, and you're 1 play from winning 2 of the games this weekend. But you got a lot of holes. Texas probably is the best team, Jimmy. The Sunday. Here's what to me separates Texas. Their Sunday guy, I think, is their best pitcher. Valanis, the freshman of the year last year, the big 6'6" lefty. He's throwing on Sundays, and LSU doesn't play them in the regular season, but if Valanis and Schmidt went at each other on a Sunday, it's like 2 first-round picks on a Sunday in the league. So when you can roll that guy out there, Rojas, who took over midway last year, is still in that rotation.
Yes.
But Valanis, I think, is the most talented of the pitchers, and he's throwing on Sunday. They're going to be favored against anybody on Sundays. So, yeah, I would agree with you that Texas is the best of the group. A lot of good teams, but nobody has jumped out at even at 5-1 so far.
Number 4 in hitting, number 2 in pitching in the conference. Is Auburn for real? They're doing it with their pitching.
Yeah.
They're now they won in unconventional manner in game 1. Would you say?
Help me out. I've been watching basketball all weekend. I didn't see them on Friday.
9th inning, Texas is leading. I think they're leading by 2. Bases loaded, either no outs or 1 out, and the ball is hit to center field, and he's charging it hard because he's going to try and make a play at home. And it goes, he runs past it.
Okay.
And all the runners score. Thanks for shopping.
Oops.
I mean, it'll be a bad center field error. So, and by the way, your center fielder for LSU has no errors as well. So,
they don't have any problems defensively in the outfield or at shortstop, but
the rest of the middle,
everywhere else,
pretty much everywhere else.
Yeah, especially behind the plate. We are brought to you by the Thibodeau Store and the Pierrepont Store, also open in LaRose and Lockport. Listen, Friday was the first day of spring, so if you are out in the yard, your spring savings up to 65% off of your lawn and garden essentials, your Miracle Grow, your Sun Grow, your Black Grow, some of your potting soils, your garden trucks, your wheelbarrows, lots of gardening tools. All of this stuff is got big discounts right now at the website, up to 20% off on the Jonathan Green seed mixtures, your spreaders, also your outdoor power equipment, patio furniture. Once you get everything straight in your outdoor areas, get some new patio furniture from the Thibodeau Store, outdoor cooking and tool storage as well. Again, 4 locations. You can get to all of those locations from thethibodeaustore.com, and it is same-day pickup on anything on the website at all 4 sites. Delivery available on some items.
Add one note in LSU baseball. In LSU's non-conference schedule had to be one of the more favorable in the league.
Yes.
Through all games, hitting their 13th, pitching their 15th in the conference.
Yeah, there's all kinds
of
and there's big picture problems. I usually don't even glance at the RPIs until the end of April, but right now LSU's lost 3 series, 2 of them at home. The series, the game losses to Vanderbilt right now on the road are Q3 losses.
And they got swept at Starkville.
Yeah, and Sacramento State, who you beat to open the season, is 4-17, so you're not getting any credit there. You got the 3 wins in Jacksonville, but right now these metrics are bad even for this time of year for LSU if you want to be looking forward to the postseason. But they got so many things to deal with before they get to that point. But there's some work to do over at the box. They get Louisiana Tech this weekend and Kentucky this weekend. Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And we remind you, we're also brought to you by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Dr. Michael Goff and his staff helping you deal with a little bit of pain. If you're hurting, if you've got back pain, neck pain, soreness, things that are keeping you from moving around as well as you'd like or getting a good night's sleep, let them help you out. They've helped us out so many times. You get a little bit of an adjustment. You get some exercises and stretches that'll loosen things up. Or if you need to go as far as a dry needle or electric nerve stimulation, cryo or ultrasound therapy, they'll be able to help you out. Airline Highway, Plank Road, Jefferson Highway, near Drusilla, Dr. Michael Goff, Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. So Texas is the only double-digit seed into this thing, and we know obviously they're not a Cinderella of any type. But I give them credit for a very well-played ball game the other night against Gonzaga. It reminded me, to see if you're with me here, it was a little bit of an old-time game. The officials let them play. There weren't a lot of fouls called. They didn't shoot a lot of free throws. Neither team made a bunch of threes. It was about a bunch of set plays, a bunch of half court, get your twos made. Texas shot the ball a little bit better than Gonzaga, and both teams did a great job of taking care of the ball. It was almost, I thought of it as a throwback game a little bit.
Fair, yeah. I mean, I didn't look at the box score to see. Let me see how many with the percentage of 3-pointers that they took. Let's see.
About
15 of 60. So for Texas, that's a low number. 25%.
And it's very close to the same thing for Gonzaga.
And 16 of 60. So, yeah, right at it. 25 and 28% basically. Yeah. And, also it is it's the development of the 7-footer for Texas in Matasvo Katitis. and he, the Lithuanian,
yeah.
and they try and, he looks like, okay, one of these guys that might be able to bully and push around a little bit. Man, he takes a beating down there, but he hangs around, and he is very comfortable and has some skills around the bucket. I mean, he kind of has some soft hands. I mean, and he will throw it down too. Now, when he Ike is a veteran low post player too for Gonzaga, and I thought he played well. It's just, here's what I'm talking about. I mean, this is a team with either 500 or losing record in conference play. One of the last teams to get in. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had to play in the play-in. They did get that little momentum. I love riding those teams that play in that play-in, survive that play-in game, because they seem to be more in tune to sort of the different aspects of playing in these neutral site NCAA tournament games. But they got a talent in Swain, okay, and then they got a guy who wants it on the big shot in Mark, who hit the game winner against NC State after they tied it. Charlie, they're just better right now, and it's just, you flip over your roster year after year more than ever, and the coaching. I mean, is Pitino's team playing better than they did in January? Is Izzo's team playing better than they did in January? And right now, Sean Miller, despite some of the things, and some of the bad publicity he got, man, he's getting to the Sweet 16 a ton, and they're better. And he's he's got a little momentum. His next year, his roster is expected to be improved, to be more talented, and we know you're going to have all the resources in the world at Texas. So I thought this was a gutsy move for a guy that had a little bit of a black eye.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go back to Xavier in the Big East and coach there for a couple of years before he got another big job after and not only did Arizona stuck with him for a little bit, but he had less rope when he did start to struggle. So they said, no, if we're going to. So they made the move, and some people thought he might not have a big job again. He's got a big job. He's done a great job with this team. And I know it's not an official criteria, but it has to be factored in some capacity, how the teams are playing at the end of the year. That's when the tournament is, and that's what, and teams develop over the course of the season as well.
How about the veteran coaches? Now, Self, we understand the health problems may force him out at this point, but Kelvin Sampson, Rick Barnes, Tom Izzo, John Calipari, and Rick Pitino, all 67 or over, all in the round of 16, and I think only Calipari is under 70. So the old guard not quite done just yet.
No. Now, Miller's not that old, huh?
No, Miller's not that old,
but he's got a hell of a resume.
Yes,
man.
He's made a lot of made a lot of deep tournament runs. Speaking of Millers, did you see who played for Gonzaga yesterday in the game? And I had forgotten that this kid was there. Adam Miller. Remember he spent a year at LSU?
Yeah.
His sixth year, because he played.
Golly.
He played his freshman year at Illinois, and you remember he tore up his knee, sat out a whole year. Spent a year at LSU. That was Wade's last year, I believe.
Yeah.
2 years at Arizona State and a year at Gonzaga. He started 138 college games, Jimmy. Averaged right at 10 points a game for his career.
9 Sweet 16s now for Miller. Two with Xavier.
9?
5. Yeah.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry, 3 with Xavier, 5 with Arizona, and now with the Texas. Oh, yeah. 9.
Man, that's a ton. Now let me ask you about A&M. Bucky Ball came out of the gate hot, got some excitement, got off to a really good start, faded a little bit, then righted themselves enough to get themselves in the tournament. But Houston took them to the woodshed. Now Houston does this to a lot of people. They beat them up physically. I mean, just absolutely dominated on the boards. They forced them into double-digit turnovers. And then the one thing that could have kept A&M in the game was to hit a lot of threes. They didn't do that. They shot 25%. How would you feel about Bucky Ball moving forward? Because this has to be considered a successful year.
Hell
without
yes.
And
they won a game in a tournament? Yes.
But is there can you win big the way he plays? Can you win big? You upgrade your personnel. Can you win big?
Well, you need rotation, Charlie. If
You need
you're gonna play like
more
that,
people.
Okay, so
Okay.
I mean, for him to put this roster together all in the late transfer portal period and to win again, get into the tournament, win a game. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And I
this
just
was
want
fine. I don't expect them to beat
I
Houston.
want to clarify now. Everybody keeps lumping together. Well, Houston doing this. Houston does this. This is what Houston does. Houston has not been Houston
No,
to
they
the
haven't.
degree for this year. They were old Houston this past weekend. I mean, there was one. The A&M crowd was, whining and complaining. They were booing because it was like they had like a 7 field goal attempt trip. I mean, offensive rebound after offensive rebound. Some South Blizzard, and then A&M supposed to respond. Well, they get a flagrant because they cheap shot them. Well, no, Houston is beating you up, but within the confine of the rules. Yeah. That's how good they are. And Sanak is getting more and more physical down low. I mean, he never plays freshman. He's got 2 in his starting 5. And so Flemings is going to be a lottery pick, and Sanak's going to be right there. He's going to be 8 to 15.
He may go. He may go in front of Flemings just because of his size. Now Flemings is the better player at the college level, but Sanak may actually go in front of him in the draft.
He's 6'11", and he is a face the basket 6'11" guy. He is comfortable. I thought they overdid it a little bit this year, but yes, it was old Houston. They beat you up. They defended you. They pounded their offensive glass, but now they've got way more scoring punch. That was one of the ugliest halves I've ever seen in the Final Four when they were down 45-20 at half against Baylor. And listen, I mean, they stole the semifinal from Duke, and they had the championship game stolen from them. Now they get to play Illinois at home, and will be a favorable if they advance and win on Thursday night against the winner of Iowa and Nebraska. I kind of like my bet on Houston to win it all right now.
Sometime the year after is supposed to happen.
Yeah. I mean, but he just, how they look 10 years older than everybody they play for how many years, and he doesn't play guys for their junior and senior year. So it looked like it just wasn't going to ever gain traction. Maybe at the right time it is, because I'm seeing, again, 4 teams that are left that are playing way better defense right now.
He makes that adjustment. He puts those freshmen in there because you can't wait anymore. If they don't play for you as freshmen, they'll go play somewhere else.
And Flemings is special. I mean, he's real because he's not a big guy, but gosh, he can score. Anyway, such a soft shooting touch, And the other 2, but it's Uzan and I think it's Shed, the senior. Mm. Those guys have been kind of up and down from game to game on their shooting. Flemings has been there every time. But again, Tennessee's playing defense like they have before this year. Iowa State and the nouveau riche of all defensive teams, Alabama, because anything's an improvement from the way they play defense this year. So anyway, don't forget our friends at Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime. You get in a car accident, oh, what a hassle. What a pain in the backside, huh? I mean, you got to first, your car's totaled. Then you got to get a rental car. Then you got to sign up for, I got to get, my back is hurting. My neck is hurting. I got to check out for a concussion. Dana's going to set you up with all of your doctors. He's going to negotiate with the insurance companies. My goodness. I mean, that was not fun. Dana, handle this for me. That's it. Call them up. There's never a charge for initial consultation, 343-1111, or you go to their website at ocbrown.com, and you schedule that initial appointment right online. It's a big block that comes up on the main page. You just click on it and set up your first appointment. He's got a team of specialized attorneys that specialize in all areas of law. Downtown, Dana Brown, 343-1111, and ocbrown.com.
Live at Chris's Specialty Foods, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And return here at Chris's. Come on by and see us here for lunch right across the street from Rufino's. All right, Jimmy, it kind of put a bow on this for the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I'm going to call them the as-expected heavies, the guys who had absolutely no trouble at any point. Houston, Arizona, Michigan, Iowa State. And I thought Michigan, watching that game with St. Louis yesterday, you know I'm a Shirts fan, okay? I thought St. Louis kind of did what they could. They hung in. They tried. They were playing hard. Like, this is what we can do, and we're still 20 points behind.
Charlie,
this group.
it's
Michigan's
that
they
good. Shot the ball really well, but it's just all about basketball. Is all about the easy buckets and preventing the easy buckets. And Michigan's size just gives them so many dunks and layups. I mean, so many, and their size prevents easy buckets. And it's just, I'm not sure about Iowa State. Iowa State was down double digits to Kentucky in the first half. So,
yeah, and you know what?
they really.
By the time I started watching that, they had pulled away. So I didn't see the first half.
You didn't watch the first half at all.
I did not.
Because it was a miracle. They were up at one.
Okay.
I liked Iowa State a lot yesterday. I'm like, guys, we are in great shape because it looked like they were going to be down 6-8 at half. I mean, Kentucky was up there. They I think they were one for first 13 from three-point play. So, the guy shoots 50%. Momcilovic shoots 50% from the year. He's going to hit it. And once he started hitting shots, their defense kept him in it. And that's why that was one of my 4 teams. And I just can't see that guy coming back. And so during the year, a guy, All-American Toppin, he gets hurt. Well, for 3 games, they managed to get, still keep it up, that short term. Then the next 4 games, no, man. No, I mean, they couldn't stay on the floor with Alabama last night. I mean, never in it. Never in it. And that's just not – we haven't seen that this year. So I'm wondering when that losing your only first-team all-conference player is going to catch up with you. And it might be this weekend.
I think they're putting a happy face on this, but they're hoping to get him back next weekend. I mean, what I saw didn't look like a guy who's going to be back in a week. I said, I think they're putting a happy face on it. Maybe not.
Boot, Scooter.
Yeah.
5 days later, you're going to play?
I would be surprised.
No.
I would be surprised. Arizona, I got to be honest with you, I saw very little of them. I saw a little bit of them against Utah State. They cruised in both of their games.
Utah State was a little bit more competitive. Is that the game that finished like 14?
12. Yeah.
Yeah, right on the number. They're complete, man. Their big knock this year, or critics, was they were a little light from the 3-point line. Okay. I mean, guess what? Are we seeing teams take less 3-pointers sometimes in these games? Like you said, that Texas game. That game. I mean, and you see some teams just continue to bomb like a High Point. I think their guards are. I like their guards. I like their backcourt, and they're a complete team. And during the regular season, there's some spots that really. The one that really got to me is when they went down to Houston. Houston was in a revenge spot. Arizona had come off of kind of an emotional victory, and it was just all set up. Just love the spot. Gate 2-wire beat Houston at the Fertitta Center.
Yeah, and
that's when I'm man, it just kind of routinely beat them at that place where they had not lost all year long. So, no, I respect Arizona all the way. I mean, who's left in their region that could give them trouble?
Well, they play Arkansas.
Arkansas is dangerous.
Yeah, and then Purdue or Texas in the other game.
Is Pringle or what's that might be back? One of their big guys.
Pringle's a rotation guy for them. He did miss the time. He's about a 5-point a game guy. He's definitely one of their rotation guys. I'm not sure if he's going to be back next weekend or not. UConn?
I'm kind of trying to get the hang of UConn. They were in a game with UCLA, tied mid-second half, and then just blew. Just the final score is kind of wasn't real indicative of how close the game was for a big part of it.
They lived at the free throw line. Because I hate UCLA in the game. I thought they had a real puncher's chance.
UCLA was playing much better down the stretch.
It seemed like UConn lived at the free throw line. They missed 2 free throws. They shot 90% from the line, so they took advantage of every opportunity that they had. But they turned the ball over a bunch. and UCLA just couldn't convert enough of those enough of those opportunities. Mick Cronin, I watched way too many post games this weekend.
You saw. I didn't see any. I mean,
well, they just kept popping them up there in between games, and asked him, Captain Bluntness, what do you need to do for next year? You know, like moving forward. He goes, I need another $5 million. Okay, well, you know,
I mean, it's
don't sugarcoat it. $5 million is, well, going into this year, $5 million was 5 Power 5 starters. Maybe not a superstar, but 5 Power 5 starters. What does $5 million buy you next year? I was shocked with that Lindenberg number. Okay, I realize it's Kentucky and Michigan bidding on an All-American, but $7 to $9 million bucks.
That's unbelievable.
If that's accurate, like, wow, man, that's everybody else's
we're talking about
complete
that's
budget.
the average, your entire roster for the SEC, for the majority of the SEC teams.
Everybody but Arkansas and Kentucky, pretty much.
Yeah. And listen, if history is any indication of college athletic programs on how they overspent with coaches and facilities and everything, aren't they just going to try and one up each other forever?
Yes.
On remember at one time we called it the arms battle, the arms war,
race,
the arms race, and then it was just the coaches said, wait a minute, y'all going to eat what kind of coach's salary? A&M's going to eat what? LSU's going to eat what? Auburn's going to eat what? I mean, now it's the players, and this is so much stronger than the inflationary rate, man. I mean, it is out of hand, and it's kind of just getting started.
Unless they amend the rules, which
they
look good luck with that. But it hit me. It's these programs that too big to fail, if we can use that. Look, LSU and Alabama and Georgia and Texas, they're going to spend in football until they win. And in basketball, that group is Kentucky and North Carolina and Kansas. They are not going to be outspent. I'll give you another.
But even though Indiana they did a lot through the transfer portal and their player budget, but their player budget was not top-notch. Now, Cignetti had more after his first year than he did going into his first year, okay? But still, his budget wasn't nearly with some others. But they still looking at, okay, this guy is now the paying the players. That's all we got to do. I mean, what they're giving Kiffin is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And, I mean, that obviously was negotiated in the deal. To get there's some reasons why he left his team, and gave up the right to coach his team. I know he wanted his cake and eat it too, but come on, I mean, LSU was going to sweeten the pot to where it's kind of funny. He got all that money and doesn't even look at the money aspects of his contract.
Got to commit it. And if you think these basketball, I'm going to give you one more stat. This one blew my mind today. I wasn't aware of this. Tell me what you think. Kentucky and Louisville. This is 2 basketball blue bloods, right?
How
How many players do they have committed, high school players do they have committed for next year? Well, we've already had the early signing period.
Maybe one apiece.
How about 0 for the 2 of them?
Yeah.
Not a 1. You think they're not going in pushing cash double-fisted into the part? They have to. They've told you ahead of time. They do not. Now, Kentucky's still after the 2 top kids in the country that are uncommitted, but between the 2 of them, they don't have a single player signed in the early period or committed for the late one yet.
And they are always at the top of the list, always top 5 in budget.
Yeah.
Basketball budget.
Well,
the new rules, the old rules, always.
They're about to shove some money in the pot, believe me.
Yeah, don't forget over here at Chris's Specialty Foods. I mean, it's grilling season. Beautiful, wonderful springtime weather again. You can load up with everything over here. Steaks, tenderloins, choice ribeyes, the fillets, regular, or we can do them, we have them seasoned. Ground ribeye meat for burgers. You talk about good. Stuffed pork chops, pepper jack, stuffed pork tenderloin, bacon wrapped, jalapeno cream cheese, stuffed duck breasts that are bacon wrapped, chicken thighs the same way, man. Just ready to throw right on the grill. Spinach stuffed chicken breast, cornbread dressing stuffed chicken breast, broccoli stuffed chicken breast, seasoned chicken wings. We're, again, ready to throw right on the grill. A great selection of sausages as well in smoked boudin. We got smoked brisket sausage, pork jalapeno, and cheddar sausage. Tons of different sausages, tons of things. You talk about from steaks to burgers to pork to chicken, different wild game. I mean, we got seafood items as well over here. It is grilling season, and not a better place to get all you grilling items in over here. Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road, right across from Rufino's.
Live at Chris's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Out and Yanni. Live from Chris's Specialty Foods on Highland Road.
And we return here at Chris's. If you missed the top of the show, Creighton coach Greg McDermott announced his retirement following Creighton's games they're in the Crown Tournament next week or 2 weeks away, whatever it is. So he is going to hang it up. 16 years at Creighton, 365 wins, 13 times in the tournament, Elite Eight appearance in 2023. He was at Northern Iowa, Iowa State, and Creighton prior to that. And Paul Maneri dismissed at parting of the ways at South Carolina.
Did it get ugly or something?
It went bad. It
went
bad.
But I know the team, but didn't he have like a?
There were people protesting, with the signs and everything out there. The whole thing, I don't know any of the ins and outs of it. I'll tell you this, though. For somebody to sit out 3 years and come back, it was probably the most the biggest change you could make in 3 years as to how the game was, how the rosters were built, that you could sit out. Jimmy, for years it was 11.7. When are they going to do it? Well, they did it and nobody noticed because it didn't matter anymore. You've changed scholarships. You've changed roster sizes. You changed NIL, college baseball, and how those rosters are assembled now. The last year Maneri did it here, and the 2 years he did at South Carolina couldn't be more different. I don't know what kind of budget was over there. But once Ray Tanner, who was the AD there, retired, Paul was working for somebody that he didn't hire him, and they were bad.
Tanner's a baseball coach, too.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell him who to hire?
Correct.
So they're going to think it's a good hire.
Yeah, and it was those 3 years were an eternity, and they weren't good. They had been shut out 2 times and run ruled twice in the 4 games this year.
Yeah, but
and
you're not running a guy 4 games into the conference schedule. Not even letting them finish the weekend series.
It was bad. It was 17. It was 17-0 in the fourth.
Well,
Friday
but when there's some questionable player interaction,
yeah,
in the dugout and
there
stuff.
was a lot of ugly over there. So that's over.
Yeah, Alan Huss, the new Creighton coach, they told us that he's praising Coach Mack, who we've met in Omaha. He was at High Point the last 2 seasons. He's a winner.
Have a great day, folks. Stay tuned for Hunt on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.